Hi, welcome to TechSR. In this video, we're going to see how we're going to secure our web API using a basic authorization. In our last video, we have used API key authorization. Maybe we can check it once again in the Postman. So we have passed the API key here to get the response. So if we remove this authorization, we will get an error. This is what we have did last time. API key is not present. So now we are going to do the basic authorization. Let's see how it works. Before starting the implementation, we can see what are the steps we're going to do now. So first is we're going to create a custom middleware first. Custom middleware for basic authorization. And then we're going to add this middleware in program.cs file. And then the last step is we're going to get this value from either from db or appsetting.json. So for now we're going to fetch this value from appsettings.json. Okay, so to start with, maybe we can add this as a first step since we are not using a db. So this can be considered as a first step, and then we can do this as second and third. Before this, we're going to first see how the basic authorization works. Then only we can create this custom logic. Let me explain this. So let's say this is the API URL which I'm going to use, and I'm going to give the basic auth as authorization type. And what I'm going to give is, okay, let's consider the username which I'm going to use Ravi, and password is welcome. Now I just shown password here. If I send this request, it will say API key not present, but we can see one more entry here. Authorization has been added here with basic CM some values. So what is being done here with authorization header is being added with the value of basic and some encrypted values. We can try with some other values just to check how this works. Instead of username Ravi, I'm going to give TechSR as a username and password as just blank 123456. Now we can send again, and here we're going to get this value again, and we can paste it here for comparison. So how basic authorization works, it has a basic space and then some encrypted value. So this encrypted value is simply a base64 encoded value. We're going to decode this first. So the first step is split the value with basic and space. This is the first one we're going to do, and then we're going to pick the second one. After space, these are the two values we have now. So we can check this value by decoding. Maybe in Google we can just search for like decoding a base64 value. We try to decode the value first. So let me try like base64 decode. So there are a lot of online tools available. Maybe I can take the first one, base64 decode. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this first value to see what is the response we are getting. We can decode it now, and we can see it fetches the value which we have given there. So I given Ravi as a username and welcome as password. Let's recheck this with the second one as well. Decode, and we are having TechSR as a username and 123456 as a password. Okay, so we are clear with this, but we can see one more thing here. It's colon. So this is being considered as a separator here. So the next thing what we're going to do is split the decoded value. First we're going to decode it, then only we can split. Decode the base64 value and then split it with colon. What we will get after this, we will get username and password. Now we got the username and password which is passed as an header, and then we can simply compare this username and password with the app setting JSON file or DB value to check whether the user is authenticated or not, authorized or not. Okay, this is the steps we're going to implement in our custom middleware. Now we can proceed with our implementation. As a first step, we're going to add a value in the appsetting.json file. You can open this, and already we have API key, but we're going to have two more values since we are going to handle this. Let's say API username, and I'm going to have it as techsr, and API password. We can have it as test123 for now. Okay, so we have created these values. So next step is we're going to work on the custom middleware. We can create a custom middleware by right clicking on this, add new item. Since we are going to create a middleware kind of template, we cannot create it directly, so we can click on show all templates. Here we can type for middleware. It will create a middleware for us. So I'm going to have the name as Basic Authorization middleware. It will create a middleware for me. So Basic Authorization middleware is created, and we're going to start our implementation now. So since we're going to add this middleware in our program.cs file itself, we don't need this here. We can either use this or use the program.cs file, but we're going to use the program.cs file, so we can ignore these lines. We can start implementing on our invoke method. So the first step, what we're going to do, we're going to check whether our request contains authorization header or not. If it present, then we're going to get this value. That is the first thing. So we can check first. We can have the variable as auth header, context dot request dot headers dot authorization. We can use either dot or we can use the array type like this. For now we can use dot itself. Once that is done, so we're going to check whether auth header is not equal to null first. And then check whether the auth header value starts with basic value. So we can convert this to string. So what's the value we should consider? Starts with basic. If this is the case, then we can proceed with our implementation. Otherwise, we should throw an error. So what's the else part for this? We can say if this is not present, it's going to be a 401. Status code is 401 not found. And we can add a message. Maybe we can refer the previous file. So this is one we're going to give. Let's see, php context. So this method needs to be async since we are using the await as a response. So what we're going to say, this is authorization is not given. Maybe we can modify the message later. For now we start with this. And then if the auth header and it starts with basic, what we're going to do? We're going to do this step. Split with basic space. That is the step we're going to do now. Encoded username and password. That's one we're going to get. Auth header dot. We're going to use a substring method, and what we're going to split? We're going to split it by basic space and we have trimmed it. Next we're going to decode this value to get this username and password. So we can first apply the encoding for this. The encoding we use is UTF-8 encoding. Then we can get the username and password. Encoding dot get string, and what we're going to do, it's base64, so we can use convert dot from base64 string. We can just click tab to see this value. Okay, it has been applied. So now it will give the decoded value for us. And then what we're going to do, we're going to get the index of this colon value, and we can split it. Let's say I'm going to say index equal to username password dot index of colon, and then I can get the username and password. Username equal to username password dot substring of 0 is a username, substring of 1 is the password. So now we got the username and password with us. Next what we're going to do, so till this we have completed. Next we're going to compare this username and password with value in the app_setting.json username and password. For that, first we need to assign this variable somewhere in our authorization middleware. So we can add private variable itself, and it's a string only. We can say API username, and the variable name we given, we can copy paste it, and same applies for private const string API password. So what's the value we given in our app_setting.json file, that we can copy the key name, we can copy it. So username is API username and password is API password. This is the key we have now. So we're going to compare this value now, but before that we're going to fetch this value from the app_setting.json. We have already did this in our previous file, API key authorization. So we can use the same thing here. This is the one which is used to get the value. Okay, so we can use the same thing. We can copy this and paste it in our code. So after fetching the password, we're going to get this. Okay, so this one we got from the configuration, app settings we got, and what is the value we're going to get now? First one is username from the configuration. Variable name we can give with some naming convention. And what's the value? API username. And the same thing we're going to do for password as well, that is API password. So we can specify this name as password config. So now we have all the values, the username password from the configuration and username password from the headers. Now let's compare this with this. If it matches, we're going to continue our request, otherwise we're going to throw an 401 error now. So we can add a logic like if username equals username config and password equals password config. So if these two matches, then we can return the response. Otherwise, maybe we can invert this condition if needed, but for now let's give this. Else we're going to do the same thing here, but we can give some different response. Invalid authorization is passed. Okay, so we can just return this. We don't need any other value. So now we have completed the logic for this. Okay, I think we have done with this, and the last step is adding our file in program.cs file. So let's navigate to program.cs file. Let's copy, what is the name, basic authorization middleware. We have used already API key authorization, so let's comment this for now. We can have only one at a time for now. Use middleware. What is the middleware we're going to use? Basic authorization middleware. Now we can run our code and check these conditions, whether it is configured properly or not. Let's stop this. I'm going to restart it now. Okay, we can test it via Postman. So before that, what we can do is we can add some debuggers to make sure where we navigate. Let's send this value. So I have passed TechSR and not as username password now. Okay, so let's test this first. So the auth header value is passed. So it contains basic also. It should proceed to next line. We have got the encoder value by splitting this one. What is the username and password? TechSR 123456. So we got the exact value, and we're going to get the username password from this. So what is the username? TechSR, and then we're going to get the password. Okay, so we got an error, length larger than. Let's see what is the value we have given. Okay, so we have passed the username, but it should be username and password. That is the reason it failed. So let me have a breakpoint here and hard reload it once. Now we can try it again. It should hit this breakpoint, so we can get the username and password. Okay, so we have username as TechSR and password as 123456. Next, what we're going to do, we're going to get the username from the configuration. So username is TechSR and password is test123. So we can see the password is not matching. Let's see what happens. So username and password not equal, so it's going to else loop. It's going to return 401, invalid authorization passed. Invalid authorization is passed, so it works. Let's say I'm going to give no auth itself. I'm not giving any authorization header. Just send this now, and now the auth header is blank. What should happen now? It should say authorization is not given. It's working as expected. Now let's give the actual value itself. And what is the value we given? We can check it from this itself. So let's give test123. Now try to send this. We already have debugger here, so send this now, and we're going to compare it here. So what is the username? TechSR, and the configuration also contains TechSR. Password test123 and configuration also contains test123. So now this should pass. Now we are getting the value of the customer 3. So this is how we can implement the basic authorization. In our upcoming videos, we can see how to log these errors. We are already logging, like we are just throwing an error in the response, but we can see how to log these errors in some logging method, like in some files or event viewer or Splunk, like that. And then next we can proceed, like now we are using Postman to test this. So how we can pass the header in the Splunk in Swagger itself, that also we can check. To get more useful information like this, subscribe to TechSR. Thanks for watching.